This is probably the worst event Pokemon ever distributed at a Pokemon event. And before I get into it, I have to make it clear that this is made purely for educational purposes. Believe me, I hate saying that just as much as most people hate hearing it, but it is what it is. Event Pokemon used to be very different to what it is today. Nowadays, all you really have to do is boot up your game, connect to the internet, and claim the mystery gift. But in the older days of Pokemon, it was very different. Events were typically in-person events. In 2009, at Nintendo's biggest venue, Nintendo World, they had decided to host a launch party for their newest game, Pokemon Platinum. They also released a promotional poster in order to encourage people to come. As you can see in the poster, it says absolutely nothing about a mystery gift, however. But right before the launch party, a new flyer would appear around the area, except it had been altered to include the promise of a special mystery gift Pokemon, which at the time makes perfect sense, and really just sounds like something they would do, except they didn't. Upon downloading the mystery gift, the player would receive a shiny Gengar, which that sounds pretty neat. Except it isn't. One, this Gengar was not authorized by Nintendo at all. And it was incredibly racist. The Gengar would be nicknamed the N-word, and its moves would be compiled of racist stereotypes, being Thief, Sucker Punch, Sludge Bomb, and Snatch. It also had Slacking's ability Truant. So exactly how did something like this happen? It all comes down to how these in-person events worked in the Nintendo DS era, which on paper is pretty genius. They would use something called an event cartridge. This cartridge would have the data of the event Pokemon that they wanted to distribute, and they would use the DS as a server, and all you had to do was plug the cartridge into the Nintendo DS system and follow the instructions. What this would do was that the DS with the event cartridge would distribute the event to nearby consoles. And all the people at the event had to do was search for the nearby mystery gift and they would receive it. Now the problem is, the ROMs for these event cartridges were leaked online prior to the event, meaning that anyone who knew what they were doing could simply change the event Pokemon to whatever they wanted and distribute it as an actual event Pokemon. However, at the event, there were actually two signals of consoles distributing event Pokemon. The posters I told you about earlier, well, the new one promising a mystery gift Pokemon was photoshopped. But here's the thing, the second console distributing mystery gifts were not distributing Gengar. And two, the fake poster was also not associated with the Gengar. It was actually someone else trying to distribute an event Eevee. And it just so happens that these two events happened on the same day. The person who distributed the Gengar is reported to have been escorted out of the event and arrested by the police. And, dressed in a Team Rocket outfit. Nintendo would respond to this, telling people not to download the mystery gift at the event and to release it because it could damage your game. But let's back up just a little bit. At the beginning of the video, I showed you footage from the actual event. All the footage can also be found in the description as well. But in this footage, we can see someone dressed in a Team Rocket costume. Mystery man solved, right? Well, not exactly. This person would later come forward claiming to be the James cosplayer from the event, named James Craven. I'll leave what he had to say on the screen if you want to pause it and read it, but after reading it myself, there doesn't seem to be any inconsistencies with the story. But after going through all the footage of the event, I didn't find anyone matching the description given by James Craven either. But there were tons of people at the event, and I feel it's much better to trust someone who were actually there as opposed to someone who wasn't. I did find Pikachu, however. Twice. Let's end things off with my thoughts surrounding this incident. I am very aware that I have a naturally upbeat voice, and though it may sound like I find this very funny, it really isn't. I think it's disturbing that someone would have the idea to do this in the first place. Not only because of the graphic and racist nature, but also the fact that there were probably several children who could have potentially received this Gengar, which is awful. If someone instead wanted to mess around by giving out a Bidoof named Alfredo with the Roar of Time and the ability Wonder Guard, I'd say sure, that's pretty funny. But when your goal is to seemingly just offend people, just don't bother in the first place. Pokemon should be free to be enjoyed by everyone. Anyways, thank you so much for watching.